In a mountain monastery, there lived a young monk named Kavi. He had been studying there for 5 years, and his teacher, Master Shen, had spent that entire time watching him with quiet attention. Kavi had a very specific way of operating. When a task needed doing, he wrote down every single step. He thought through every potential problem before it even happened, believing that success came only from absolute preemptive planning. Over time, the other monks started to step back from him. They would do their chores quietly and out of his sight, simply because working near Kavi meant having every minor action scrutinized and corrected. Kavi noticed the distance, but he told himself they just didn't understand the rigorous discipline required to do things properly. But his methods carried a heavy physical cost. At night, Kavi lay awake running through the next day's tasks. He checked his plans, anticipated failures, and created backup plans, waking up each morning already exhausted. This diagram shows the kind of logic tree Kavi built for his biggest task yet, the monastery's harvest. He spent 3 full days analyzing soil conditions, mapping out schedules, and aligning timing variables into one perfectly calculated path. On the morning of the harvest, the sky was clear. Kavi woke up early and felt a rare sense of peace. He believed his system had finally accounted for every single possibility. He arrived at the first hour of work with his mind already frayed. By trying to outpace every problem before it arrived, he had spent his stamina on hypothetical failures rather than the task at hand. By mid-morning, that clear sky was gone. Thick, heavy clouds had rapidly gathered over the valley. Then the rain arrived. A violent, driving downpour beat down on the crops and quickly turned dry dirt paths into deep, flowing mud. The work could not be finished. By evening, months of careful growth had been washed away or completely ruined. Kavi stood at the edge of the ruined fields in the rain. Inside him, something snapped. He had prepared for every problem he could see, and his entire system had failed anyway. His anger was directed at the rain's refusal to obey his logic. He had built a fortress of rules to protect the harvest, and the weather had simply ignored the walls. Soaking wet, he turned away from the chaos and marched toward the dry safety of the storage building to find Master Shen. Kavi sat down beside the old master and laid out his frustration. He demanded to know the point of spending 3 days writing steps and calculating risks if a random external force could just erase the entire effort without warning. Highly rigid systems are brittle. They break because no amount of human intellect or preparation can accurately predict the arrival of every unseen variable. Master Shen listened without moving. When Kavi finally finished, Shen stood up, pulled a thick cloak from a lull, handed one to his student, and walked out into the rain. He led Kavi down a path behind the monastery to the river. The water was swollen from the storm, running fast and loud over the rocks. Shen stopped at the bank, pointed to the rushing center of the channel, and told Kavi to wade in and stop the flow of the water with his hands. Kavi stepped in, wading out to where the current was strongest, and pressed his bare palms flat against the heavy, turbulent flow. The water pushed back. It rushed between his fingers and over his wrists. When Kavi applied more force, the river simply found new paths, multiplying and accelerating around every single gap he left open. Pushing directly against a massive, unyielding system does not slow its momentum. It only rapidly drains the energy of the person doing the pushing. His arms grew heavy. Kavi finally dropped his hands in defeat, and the river instantly resumed its exact previous path, completely unchanged. Master Shen called out over the noise and pointed to Kavi's left. Sitting in the middle of the current was a massive, dark, smooth stone that had clearly been there a long time. The water hit the rock and split in clean, fast lines around its sides. The stone didn't lean or shake, and it exerted zero counterforce against the oncoming water. From the bank, Shen asked Kavi to compare his burning, exhausted arms to the absolute stillness of the rock in the water. The old master explained that the rock maintained its peace through a very simple mechanic. It had entirely stopped trying to act like the river. Kavi waded back to the edge and sat on the cold bank. For the first time in days, he stopped calculating outcomes. He sat in his wet clothes and let the overwhelming roar of the water wash over him. You cannot map out every storm. True resilience comes from standing firm in your own space, securing your footing and letting the uncontrollable chaos flow safely around you.